We're standing on a Awabakal country. We've just gone for a walk down through the bush, down to a little freshwater stream that's coming down onto the salt water. We're standing on a really beautiful rock in the sunshine. I'm going to go for a walk and put the sand between our toes and feel country. I think it was one of a couple of things, but I think it was something that I took to very naturally because of my parents, actually. One, they were very thrifty, so they were always making things from nothing. We were quite poor growing up, I guess. So we didn't have a lot. I remember Mum cutting down little paper bark, little branches, and making a fence for us and things like that, you know. So my dad was a builder, and so he'd build houses, or our houses. We had one that I grew up in where we started in a caravan, and so he built it from when we were a little baby, little 2-year-old walking around. So I watched it happen around me, you know. And then the next house, I saw the plans. I saw the plans on the table, and I saw how they were looking at them and what they were saying and doing and how it was going to come together. And then, you know, I was the cement mixer building the house, you know. So I was on there, me and my brother, gosh, you know, we'd had enough of it, but that was our job. So we helped build our house, and there wasn't any job that kind of I wasn't asked to sort of help out with. So I think it was that hands-on experience, you know, that really, really got me involved. And my mum made like the LED light in our doors and the lights, and she always had a painting on an easel halfway done for like I think 13 years of my life or something. So, and then one year she finally finished it, and I was like, how fantastic. And my dad made the frame for it, so that was really lovely. And so they came together, and that picture's been sort of pride of place in their house ever since. So I don't think it matters about time, you know. I think, you know, if there's something you want to do, you can always find the time to do it eventually. But yeah, I would like upholster chairs as a kid. I would make like vases. I would do all these really like, I don't know, just things that probably not other kids were really doing, but I was really quite interested in it. And I'd go to Vinnie's and I'd, you know, pick an ottoman and find some fabric. And my mum was really good on the sewing machine as well, so she'd help me sew it up, and I'd just make things. I liked having an input into my environment and the places and the spaces that I inhabited, and I liked having a voice that went further than just, you know, my person. I wanted to be able to have an interest in the wider environment. I think I grew up as like a bit of a surfer, so I was always outside and always in my environment, looking at the wind and the swell, and, you know, knowing what the tide was doing and all those things. So I always had a bigger view of what my environment was in that way, or a more connected view. And I think that your home is kind of this intersection between you and your environment, and I really like to be able to have like an inside-outside kind of environment where I feel more at home like that, you know. So I think getting into design has enabled me to be able to do that in my home. Yeah. So luckily for me, I saw a poster in the window at my school, which was for a design college called KVB down in North Sydney, and I actually did what was called a creative test. So it wasn't a normal kind of test, it was based around your creativity. And I don't think I've ever seen a test like that or done one since, but apparently I passed, so I got the scholarship to go, and yeah, that was really wonderful for me. I'd been to the open day and I'd had a look at the different types of design that was there. There was fashion and graphics and interior, and I really liked the models and the model making and things like that. So that was the one that I decided to go for. You know, I went on to get a job at an interior design company who did retail, so I learnt how to design shops and cafes and things like that, which was all about getting a brief from somebody and then sort of executing that into the built environment, which was great. But in the end, I wanted to do my own things, and I wanted to, you know, there was other things that were calling me. I always say every project that you do will sort of create one more stepping stone, which will create one more stepping stone, which will create one more stepping stone. And eventually, you know, you just start to create a pathway. Yeah. I don't do a lot of wall works, but this is one that I've done using gold and copper and silver leaf. So there's sculptural works, there's photography, there's weaving, there's wall works, there's all these different types of ways that my practice spreads across all disciplines. And for mob, I think there is really no one type of discipline that we have to adhere to. I think we can really shape and mould, and it's part of almost our cultural practice to be able to work diversely across multi-disciplines. Love the emu feathers. I love that there's two of them. It's like I always forget, and then when I pick one up, I'm reminded.
Nicole, we're in your garden and I'd really like to ask you about your Barangar project. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yes, I can. So it's lovely to have you here, SJ. Love a visit from Mob, especially in my backyard. So Barangar was a project that we brought together to bring Mob together, basically. It was to bring people like you and I and Mob all across the nation together to be able to talk about what was important to us, what we wanted to see in the future, create connections so that we could have future collaborations that we don't even know are going to happen yet. It's like that first meeting. I always say you meet someone the first time, but the next time you meet them, you know them and you can say hello, and then as soon as you have that first meeting, there's this exchange of energy, of being, of knowing, of understanding, and if you need to reach out again in the future, there's that pathway is already there, and you know that you're welcome to be able to do that. And I think for Mob, collaboration, creating community, those relationships is kind of the most fundamental part of our practice.
Barangar. What does it mean?
The word literally means like large vessel. So it was about bringing everybody together and creating this large vessel for us to all jump on board and create and hold us together for us to move into the future as a community, as a design industry, as Mob, as everybody that is today trying to find their way. And a lot of the time Mob are very isolated out there in their own single practice, and this was to be able to create a space where we could all find some unity together to move forward.
So Barangar is a collective.
It's I would say it's ever evolving what it is. I don't think we can put our finger on what it is today. I think we want it to evolve. We don't want it to be static. We want people to talk about what they want it to become, and for it to be mobile and malleable to be able to do that. And the exhibition was a great example of that this year, where the feedback was, what do we want to do next? And everyone said, we'd love an exhibition. And so we have the Barangar this year, the exhibition at UNSW Galleries. So
tell me about how that was for you to lead that, to be involved in it, to produce it and to create it.
So it was really fantastic. I guess, again, the other feedback that we got from the Barangar the day where we brought everyone together was that for Mob, it's all about making and doing and being together. So for the exhibition, it was really, we wanted to show the process. We wanted to show the making, we wanted to show the doing, and we wanted there to be a series of workshops with each of the artists that would engage the community. So each artist has or will be doing a workshop. The original bag making project was back on country with the aunties, and it's like you just hand them the materials and it's like it's in their bones and away they go, and then they're teaching you. So it's a very different experience. What the materiality is, how to work that material, what Mob would have used bags for, what you can do now. Obviously there's a lot of different fashion as well, so obviously bringing in your own design elements into that as well, and then just trying to support them to create their own bags. So Deborah Beale, she's done a lot of the fashion works, if you get a chance to get in there, and they're beautiful, and she does a lot of dyeing from natural materials. So she'll take eucalyptus leaves and things like that, and then dye the material from that. So she's done some dyeing workshops at UNSW, so that's been really wonderful. And then we had Sharon Egan, and she's been making these lovely little pieces here. This one's one that my son did of a goanna. So these weaving workshops where we had about, I think it was 70 people. There were so many people there. And the workshop was only meant to go for, I think, an hour, and I think it went for 3 or something crazy, because people just get so involved and excited and interested in making, and what they come up with is just fantastic. Like, they're just beautiful, beautiful things, and then they're all added to a collective. So again, that idea of coming together as a community and adding in and not just taking away. Yeah, so Leanne's work is about the eels. She does a lot of work around the eels and animals, and just she likes her work to be very easily read for people. So that particular work, she worked up the eels into a very sort of, like quite an abstract sort of a form. It's very beautiful, and it tells the story of when the eels go from the river, where they're a brown kind of a colour, and then when they hit the ocean, they actually go translucent, which is unbelievable. The eels are an unbelievable animal. So yeah, all of the works have these stories or these deeper meanings, and if you look a little deeper into them, you'll find those. It's very important for us to have our elders part of and support during these projects, to make sure that we're on the right track and that we're following protocols. Auntie Maxine was amazing. The welcome she gave was just fantastic. She had me raptured with her words the whole time. So it was wonderful, and we got her to actually record a welcome that was playing, so it'll play the whole of the exhibition, just so that when people get there, they also get to experience that welcome. So yeah, it's very important that we have those layering of things so that people can start to connect and understand and know, for us, how important our knowledge holders are as people get older. And they, it's not just about being old though, is it? Because you actually have to, you have to become an elder, and that's different to becoming old. And so when people have that status of being an elder, it really is a very respected title in our community, and we really do look up to them and take care of them and, you know, honour them. You know, we have a cup of tea, we have a scone, we start yarning about what's important to them. I think the key in that whole thing is really listening. I think you just have to listen, and when you really pay attention to what people are saying, you'll have little moments where you just go, aha, and then there'll be another one, aha. And it's just those tiny little changes.
Talking about Barangar and all of the help that you were able to manifest, talk me through the people that you worked with.
Yeah, so Catherine, Emily and Paloma were just unbelievable in at UNSW Galleries, but we also did collaborate with the Maritime Museum and the Australian Design Centre. In particular, Tyson at the Maritime Museum was wonderful, and he ended up helping to MC the day and film, so it was wonderful. Yeah, we need to create the pathways, we need to create the spaces where people can belong. Like, if we don't have those, then it's not going to be a pathway that people are going to want to walk, you know.
And I'm really interested in that viability of the Barangar concept.
Yeah.
We've talked about the past, we've talked about the present. Where to next?
Yeah, where to next? Well, one of the other things we had at the Barangar was a roundtable about what we could do sort of into the future, and one of them was a one-pager that we want to get done so that all of us that work as sole traders within the industry have sort of a memorandum or a rules of engagement, because a lot of the time as mob we do get pulled and pushed and asked to do things that are outside of our scope of works, or asked to do more than say an average person as a designer would get asked to do. So we're working on that at the moment, and then the next thing that we'd like to do is to take these workshops as well and start to do some masterclasses. So we worked with Luke Russell and Scott Lushwitz on the day to make the men's tools and weapons, and they made a boomerang on the day that was just beautiful, and one particular participant was just absolutely amazing, and I think they really just got into a beautiful rhythm and they were just away, you know. I heard that they were just really moved by the whole experience, so it's wonderful when that happens. Yeah, so the kangaroo pelt cloaks was something that my mum and I actually came across down in Melbourne Museum, and it was through another art project with Rosanna Raymond actually, and part of her practice was to come in and to go through the collections and see what was stored and what was hidden and what was taken and what was traded, and we were lucky enough to see a cloak in that collection. So we looked how it was woven together, and we saw how many pelts were part of it, and then my mum and I, as part of that project, remade a cloak for the first time together. Yeah, it was beautiful. And since then we've started remaking more and more in different sizes, and ones for littlies and ones for biggies and everything in between. And I really want to make a full length one next. That's my next dream. Yeah, so that was just a conversation that I had with Yamaji Arts when I rang up, and I was like, what would the aunties like to make? I said, I've been making cloaks, and they was like, oh, they'd love to make bags. They've been talking about it forever. And it was just like, you know, the worlds collided, and if you just put things out there to the ancestors, or you just listen to what people would like to do, then things just somehow weave their way together. And so that's how the bags came to be that are in Barangar. So we had everyone that needed to be there, from the elders to people that were just starting out in design and wanted to reach out and create the community, to people that had been working for decades within the design industry. So we had the the professionals all the way down to the people that were just like in education still, and the elders were there to guide them through the whole process. Everyone was there. There was nanas, there was children, there was design professionals, there was there was students, there was people who worked cross-disciplinary, there was young people, old people, different identifying people. Everybody was there. So we had a really great cross-section, and there was people from all around Australia. So that was one of the really great things, is that it was a very national feeling and inclusive vibe. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about how when we work on projects together, it doesn't often unfold like a clock or like ticking a box at a certain time. There's processes and protocols, and just letting things sit and sleeping on things. There's been moments in projects where you just sit and feel them out, and you just let them sit sort of within your body and try to understand where it's going and making sure that you're on the right track. And a lot of the time for me, those moments actually come when I'm not completely awake, when I'm sort of in this like semi-unconscious kind of space where, you know, all the things that you can bring, all of the things from your past, your present, your future, the ancestors, everyone around you can all sort of simmer in this space that isn't a fixed reality. And it's these unseen spaces that I think there's so much to be said for. It doesn't have to be this linear process, or it isn't a linear process for me in that way, that we do this particular thing by this particular time at this particular thing. Like there is a rationale and a flow, but it ebbs and it flows, and sometimes we get guided in a different direction during a project, and that's okay. That's all right. We just need to be able to follow where that goes. And by doing that, I've often found that the projects grow and develop and include more people, have a better outcome, are more suitable to the space. There's only ever been pluses that have come from giving a project some more time and thought and care and sensitivity. And I always say that the intention that you come to a project with, the intent that you embed within a project becomes visible. And that intent, when people come into a space or they come in contact with a work or a project or anything that you've been involved in, that intent somehow transfers back out to them, and they can feel it. More than just looking at an object or a place or a thing, they can feel that intention that you came to that project with, so they can walk away with a feeling and not just a thinking. And I think for me, that's where a lot of, mob designing, where a lot of their process sort of comes from, that I think is very unique and can only come from mob, from the place where they're designing from. It's that connection back to the beginning of time where only people from that place can access those deep visceral knowledge that's part of who they are in their bones. And so when I do projects from home, I can work with my elders and have that connection that way. When I work with other Aboriginal people, it's about just holding space for them to be able to have those moments. And sometimes, in the this Western kind of society that we live in, there's not a lot of space held to be able to do those practices. It makes it quite difficult. So, being an Aboriginal designer, I think there's a lot of other processes that we go through that aren't appreciated, I guess, yet. And so when people do collaborate or do work with mob, I guess it's just about understanding that there are different ways of thinking and being in the world, and trying to just hold space to learn and listen.